If you've ever thought maybe this extra font will make my design work, I hate to break it to you, but it probably won't. Fonts don't fix design problems, they actually just dress them differently. Most people waste hours and hours inside Canva looking for fonts to try and find the perfect font that's going to make their design work. But if your brand vibe, font selection, and font system aren't clear, your designs are always going to look off, no matter how many fonts you select or which ones you choose. So if you're spending hours scrolling through Canva looking for fonts, this video is for you. I've been designing for many years and I've seen many business owners fall into the same trap, believing the perfect font will magically save a weak design. I've done it too. You keep adding, changing, tweaking, hoping that something will eventually click. But if you don't sort those three things out first, nothing's going to work and you're going to waste hours inside Canva. Hi, if we haven't met before, my name's Miranda Capellino and I've been a graphic designer for over 30 years, and I'm your guide to designing a brand that actually works. I help business owners and content creators turn their DIY designs into scroll-stopping graphics that get them clicks, clients, and confidence fast. The first point I want to cover is the endless font hopping trap. And we've all fallen into this. You sit there going through oodles and oodles of font recommendations, and the amount of fonts in Canva are in the thousands. There is just so many to select and so many different options available. And it's tempting to play around with them because some of them are absolutely gorgeous. But if you've got too many fonts in your design, they're going to be confusing and it's just going to lead to chaos. So the first trick is to find a font that matches your brand vibe. And what I mean by brand vibe is that feeling that you want people to get when they look at your designs. Do they want to feel safe and secure, or do they want to feel relaxed and pampered? Every post or every creation that you do for your business, you want to get an emotive reaction from the viewer so that they gel with you and they want to connect. But if you go and select multiple fonts and you keep changing things up, that connection's never going to be made, and people are just going to be confused every time they see something different popping up. The truth is that if your brand vibe is not defined, then it doesn't matter which font you choose, it's never going to look quite right. Imagine your fonts as like an outfit that you wear to work. If you were pitching up one day in dungaree and plaid shirt, that would give one vibe. If the next day you pitched up in a smart suit, that's another look. And then on the third day, if you pitched up in a pink frilly ballerina dress, that's another vibe. So people wouldn't know quite how to gel with you. So you want to create a consistent vibe with your fonts that matches your brand. And the same is true if you use too many fonts. If you use a lot of different fonts in one design, it's going to start looking like Frankenstein. There's going to be bold here and script there, and you just want to actually keep something simple and consistent. There's two things that you can do to get there. And the first is to start with feelings, not fonts. Before you even open up Canva and you decide, I'm going to create something, I want to choose a font, I want you to figure out what your brand vibe is first. And it literally is just 3 to 5 descriptive, emotive words that you want whoever's going to be looking at your design to feel while they're looking at it and afterwards when they think about you and your brand. So that could be warm and fuzzy, it could be confident and bold, it could be feminine and gentle. Whatever those emotive words are that you want associated with your brand, you want to nail them down before you start going in and looking for fonts, because then you know which fonts to go look for. And that's because fonts have feelings. If you use a script font, you're going to give more of an elegant, romantic, classy feeling. Whereas if you use a loose, handwritten type of font, it's going to look friendlier, it's going to look more casual. And if you wanted a more modern, clean, confident feel, you could go for a sans serif type of font. All fonts express a feeling. So for fun, picture this. Imagine you go to your desk in the morning, you've got your coffee and you're ready to work, and you sit down and there's a beautiful red rose sitting on your keyboard in front of you. And there's this note propped up against it. Now, if the note was written like this, you'd probably think, oh, lovely, someone loves me, someone admires me. It's going to give you this warm, fuzzy feeling. However, if they'd used this font, you'd want to get a restraining order. It looks like something out of a Halloween movie. So these designs use exactly the same color and exactly the same words, but the feeling that comes across in the fonts is totally different. So figuring out your brand vibe and nailing down exactly which emotions you want your viewer to get when they look at your work, That really does help. If you're serious about building a brand that gets results, subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my weekly videos. And join my newsletter, The Brand Buzz, so that you get design and branding tips in your inbox every week. Once you've figured out what your brand vibe is, the next step is to build your brand kit and commit to using those fonts. So you want to select 2 to 3 fonts for your brand, and you want to use them consistently. Stick with them in every design. And I say 2 to 3, but even 2 is perfect. You want something that stands out for your headings. So maybe something bold, or as I say, you could use a script. You want something that grabs people's attention, and that is the font that you're going to use for all your headings and your subheadings. The next font you need to choose is your body copy font. And this is what you're going to use for the majority of your content. When you see paragraphs or more body copy, you want to have a font that you use consistently through all your designs for that purpose. And this font doesn't only have to look good, but it has to be easy to read. So don't choose something that's very frilly or very fancy. Go for something plain, simple, and you can use different versions of it. In other words, you can use like the plain regular for normal copy. If you want words to stand out in your paragraph, you can always use the bold or the italic version. But get something that's easy to read and simple for you to use throughout your designs. And then if you're confident using fonts, you can go for a third font. And a third font I always use for accents or call-outs. So it's something that you're adding a little bit of personality to your brand. So you can maybe use it for a quote or for like a little comment in the corner. And those you can use funkier, fancier fonts because you're not going to use a lot of them and you're not going to use them often. So in summary, you want 2 to 3 fonts, one for your headlines and titles, one for all your body copy, and a third one maybe for all your accents and call-outs. You don't want to go for more than this because your designs are just going to start looking messy and you're going to struggle to keep that consistency across your brand. And having those 3 fonts designated to their purposes is really going to help you because you're going to know, okay, that's the font I use for a headline, that's the font I use for a body copy, and you're not going to be getting confused every time and using, say, the headline font for lots of body copy and then somebody can't read it properly. You'll know what to use and when to use it. That consistency will save you time and build you trust with your viewers. And it makes life so much easier. I know exactly what fonts I'm using every single time I go in and create a design. It's like when I get dressed in the morning. If I know I'm going for a run, I put on my comfy sneakers. I don't have to select which heels I'm going to choose to go with which outfit. I know I'm going for a run. I need my comfy sneakers. And you want the same thing when you jump into Canva to create a design. You want to be comfortable and confident with your selection and know that you're going to be able to go and focus on the run and not be worrying about wobbly ankles or sore feet. So my challenge for you today is, if you haven't already, select your 3 to 5 brand vibe words. It's really simple. Just sit down with a cup of coffee and think, what is that feeling that I want people to have from me and my brand? If you're struggling to do it, I've got a fun game that you can try online. I'm going to put the link in the show notes where you can literally go in and select a whole lot of words and fine tune it. And then at the end, it'll pop up with your 5 words, and those are the ones that you keep and you use. And oh, by the way, those words are excellent when you're using AI for prompting. If you consistently use those words in your prompt, the responses and the feedback that you get from AI are going to be so much more brand aligned. So those words are gold. And once you've selected those words and you go into Canva, select 2 to 3 fonts and use them for a week. Don't deviate, just use those fonts for a while and see how you feel with them. You'll design faster, your posts will be more cohesive, and you won't be constantly searching and looking for the perfect font. Because it was never about the font, it's about the focus and the feelings. Now, if you're wanting a little bit more help or hand-holding, creating your brand vibe and establishing your brand identity, please come join us inside Design Your Brand Academy, because that's exactly what we do step by step in there. And if you're not quite ready for that yet, then join my newsletter, The Brand Buzz. The link is in the show notes so that you can get design tips and branding advice straight to your inbox once a week and have fun designing.